Do you even remember what normal is? So many people were like, oh, when we go back to normal,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's 6 months now, right? Like,
Right.
what new normal have you? In my opinion, we should be creating new normals all the time anyway, right? We should
I
be
agree.
figuring out ways to improve ourselves, which eliminates the old normals that we've gotten better from. And so, when people talk about like the normalcy or going back to normal, or this is the new normal, like, do you live a life of constantly changing that and evolving to get better, or not, I guess?
Well, I think so. I think this goes back to something that we all were talking about in the very beginning. It's that relationship building, right? So normal for, and I'm just using it related to the photo booth experiences, a normal event experience in the past for a photo booth might have been, hey, people come up, they get their props, they're putting them near their face, they're putting glasses on, they're having their picture taken. We're all laughing and talking and handing them photos. I mean, we're inches apart from each other. So that was, quote unquote, the norm of how a photo booth operation may have worked in that type of setup. So now the normal could be very different. If we are 6 feet apart, then there is no longer that engagement of, hey, I'm handing you your picture and we're right there. Maybe it's going to now be that your picture is going to be placed on a table that in individually people can go and pick up their picture. Now we can't have everyone hovering around, watching everybody else get their pictures taken and laughing and having fun. And I mean, now it's going to be, hey, we're going to have some physical dividers that are kind of keeping people spaced apart. Yes, we would.
So as a business with that, right?
Mhm.
So how do you plan for the future and execute for the now on things that you've invested in for the before?
I think do you mean?
So like before, someone could do this, right? I have
Mhm,
things in place for that.
mhm.
Now I'm not able to do that. Even let's say that you can have an event, right? Let's say
Right,
that an event does happen, right? And
right. That's
they
kind of
hire
happening right
you,
now.
and but how do you then, as a company, do you just get rid of those things that you've invested in because you can't do that? Do you reinvest in new things
Um,
for the in between? Like, because I think that's where a lot of like King's Dominion announced that they're not opening this year, right? Busch
right.
Gardens is going to open for like a little bit, it sounds like,
Mhm.
right? Or has opened for a little
Right.
bit,
So what you're
right?
saying.
They made the decision that with what is been put in front of them, they can't open and
Right.
be what a business is supposed to be, right? How do you, as a business, recognize whether or not, I guess, you should be open,
Mhm.
right? Can be open, like that you can afford that, in kind of the same way that King's Dominion
Right.
decided, hey, with what's being presented to us,
Mhm.
we can't operate as a business. So how do you figure out whether or not uh, this is going to be viable or not? Because ultimately, we want
Right.
you to stay alive, right?
Right. Right. I think so in my case, I mean, there is this option, and obviously we're talking about this photo booth world right now. So yes, there is an option for a virtual experience, whether or not people on their own are gathered together, let's say at an event, or if they just choose to not be gathered at an event and everyone gets this link, they can take a picture on their own phone. They can upload a picture that's already on their phone. They can still have the same shared frame, same experience. Everybody's pictures get uploaded to this gallery that they can all view, and the picture comes to their phone. So while we have the opportunity to offer something, um, it's obviously not offering what was the in-person experience. And so I think if we talk about things that we may have invested in to try to continue the business or continue to do the business but in a different way, I think it's just a matter of trying to figure out, you know, what's your plan? Are you reaching out or connecting with your current clients, or do you have clients who have moved their events to the future? I mean, it's I don't know if I really have an answer for you, for everyone on that, because I think it's going to be personal. How much are you willing to go through this experience, this wave, until you you make a decision and say, look, this is, like you said, hey, my season is completely done for the year. Like in my head, sure, I'm saying, wow, I've got 4 events on the books right now that are still holding. Would I love to get more events on the books? Absolutely. It's also just that comfort level, Zach. I mean, I have to admit, I mean, once that does happen, now we have these new ways of having to do things. And, are we really as comfortable as we think we are? And maybe, yes, we're still social distancing or physical distancing. We're, wiping down things. We're wearing gloves or we're wearing masks. But I think sometimes until we're probably in that scenario, we're probably really not as sure.
Well, and I think that's something that a lot of people are not talking about, in my opinion, is kind of buyer behaviors, right?
Right.
My plan is this. Great. Are people willing to jump on board with that?
Right.
Right.
Well, and how about in this scenario? I'm the business owner, right? I'm taking my photo booth equipment there. Let's say it's a scenario where we could be there and we can be distance and all that. Well, what do you do when there's the person who doesn't want to abide by all of that? Like, now do we become the rule enforcers? Like, we're trying to help people have this good experience in this different way than they're used to experiencing. But now we have people who aren't maybe wearing the mask at the event and it's something that they're required to do. Then, there's a whole set of other parameters, discussions, like you said,
Right.
training. I mean, and how I react might be different than how my team member reacts. Maybe they don't have experience in interacting with people who are going to maybe not be cooperative. I mean, there's a lot to consider, but those are the conversations that people should be having and talking with maybe other people who do what they do, or just other business owners, or like today, people listening to this, experience and saying, wow, I never thought about that. Wow, I never thought that it would be this way. Or what about the what ifs, the buyer behavior, the consumer, the person at the event, their behavior. I mean, those are things to consider. And then do we now need to also think about in our contracts, my contract says, if people are belligerent and all, these things, whatever, like we can shut down the event, there will be no refunds. Now, do we need to have little clauses in there about things like that related to kind of our health related stuff?